Welcome to Vegan Business Talk with Katrina Fox, author of Vegan Ventures, Start and Grow an Ethical Business. Hello and welcome to episode 67 of Vegan Business Talk. I'm Katrina Fox, journalist, author, media and PR coach, copywriter, editor and proofreader, and founder of Vegan Business Media, a content, events and training platform providing success tips for vegan business owners and entrepreneurs. Before we go into the main part of the show, I want to let you know about a new online PR course for vegan business owners and entrepreneurs that I'm running. It's called Vegans in the Limelight and it starts in June. That's 2017 if you're listening in the future. And you'll learn how to get free publicity by getting yourself featured in the media on a regular basis. Now, the course is particularly for vegan professionals who can't afford to hire a PR firm or a publicist at the moment. And I'm running it because I see so many vegan business owners, authors and entrepreneurs missing out on golden opportunities to get into the media, either because they're not confident in approaching journalists because they don't have the skills, or they're pitching the media the wrong way. So I'm going to share with you the strategies and techniques for how to do your own PR. The course is tailored specifically for vegan business owners, so there'll be downloadable templates, case studies and bite-sized video training. You'll be able to post questions on the learning platform, which I'll personally respond to, and there'll also be 3 live group calls you can jump on to ask me anything about getting into the media, and I'll give you answers specifically for your business. So you're not going to be left to struggle along on your own with the course. So if you're keen to get your vegan brand in the limelight, head over to veganbusinessmedia.com where there's a link to the course with all the details. And I'll also put the link on the show notes page. In this episode, I interview Nikki Duong Koenig, the founder of Cykochik custom handbags in Dallas, Texas. Nikki started the vegan handbag company back in 2003 when she was an art student. After graduating, she took up a career in corporate marketing as an art director and creative director, working in New York City and Dallas for American Express, AT&T, Bank of America, Barney's New York, Hilton Worldwide, Hewlett-Packard, and many other global brands. In 2013, Nikki left the corporate world to focus full-time on growing Cykochik, collaborating with local, national and international artists while supporting environmental causes and animal and human rights. Within a year, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals honoured Cykochik with the Compassionate Business Award for being an exceptional cruelty-free company. And Nikki became the first Texas fashion and accessories designer to collaborate on a collection with PETA. In this interview, Nikki discusses why she chooses to manufacture her bags in Dallas and the challenges that brings, how she chooses which artists to collaborate with on collections and how to pitch her, how she ran a successful crowdfunding campaign in 2013 to celebrate the brand's 10th anniversary, how getting customers involved in her brand and creating a community around it has resulted in the business's success, why she decided to stick to an online e-commerce model instead of selling her products through retailers, and much more. Here's the interview with Nikki Duong Koenig from Cykochik Custom Handbags. Hello, Nikki. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Hi, Katrina. Thank you.
I'm very excited to speak with you. And I should say this isn't our first interview. I did an email interview with you for the fabulous digital magazine La Fashionista Compassionista. And I love your brand. And I thought, well, let's get Nikki on the show. So it's nice to be able to do a vocal interview with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be on the show. I'm a huge fan.
Oh, that's kind of you. Wonderful. So tell us a bit about Cykochik. Now, have I pronounced that right? I'm saying Cykochik. Is it Cykochik or Cykochik? Let's get that right first.
No. I get asked that question a lot. It's actually Cykochik.
Oh, chick! Oh, it's good job I asked you then.
Yeah.
There we go. Fantastic.
Yes.
So, why did you start Cykochik? What's your why? I always, as you know from when I ask people the very first question, I always love to know why people run their business.
Okay. Well, I started Cykochik 14 years ago when I was an art student because I love art and I love fashion. So it was just natural for me to combine both of my passions. And I started making custom handbags with custom hand-cut portraits on the bags themselves. So they were sort of like, pieces of artwork. And then today, I'm working on Cykochik full time because I actually want to make the world a happier and more compassionate place for all living beings by offering, vegan, eco-friendly, and ethically made handbags and clothing.
Fantastic. That are also fun and fabulous and stylish, which I think is wonderful. So I love how vegan businesses are a form of activism and that you can be so creative and have these things that are beautiful. But like you said, they're also ethical. So look, we've already mentioned the name. So it's got also a little bit of a double entendre because like if you didn't see the name of the brand and, you just said it out loud like Cykochik, it's kind of interesting. So tell us a little bit about the name and why you chose it and what it means.
Yeah, so that's the second question is Cykochik. What does that mean? And where did that come from? Well, it's spelled Cykochik, and it derives from the words cycle and chick. So because I believe that everything in life has a cycle and that we're all connected. And it was also inspired by my use of recycled materials, and also cyberspace because we're an e-commerce business. And, it's also sort of a play on Cykochik, sort of tongue in cheek, because I sort of see things from an unconventional perspective and I like to color out some of the lines. It does not mean like I'm making light of any mental disorders or anything like that.
Got it. I love that you've obviously put a lot of thought into the brand, and I really like that. I think that's really helpful for people to hear that, how it's, it's got all those different meanings. I love what you said, like even around the cyberspace, which I hadn't thought of as well, which is fantastic. So, no, that's great. So what kind of people, Nikki, tend to buy your products and why? So are they I know you're obviously maybe known as just anecdotally, but are they mainly vegans, non-vegans? What kind of demographic and type of people buy your products?
Well, they are mostly women who are creative, compassionate, and conscientious. Women of all ages from around the world who also share our love for art, animals, people, and the environment. They're not all vegans because we also appeal to a more general market, but the majority are vegan.
Oh, okay. Wow. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what were you say you've been running this business now for 14 years, which is awesome. What were some of your key challenges when you first started up Cykochik?
Well, so when I started, I was a student. And I think like most startups, the biggest challenge is, of course, with money and having capital. And as a poor, starving student, I didn't have a lot of capital, but I've self-funded the company for 14 years now, with the exception of the Kickstarter campaign in 2013.
Cool.
And the other challenge is, of course, with time. Again, being a student and then I was working full time for 10 years, it was hard for me to find the time to work on Cykochik. So I worked on it, at night, on the weekends. And so I had to contract out, a lot of work, like for artisans, for sewing, for web developers and for bookkeepers because I was not very good at that. So I had to contract out a lot of work in the beginning.
Got it. So you're really juggling. This is what I find interesting and I like about your brand is that, you did start from the ground up. You started as a student, then you were working full time and you were doing this in the evenings and weekends. And I think that's important for people to hear, particularly when they see someone, who's got the success that you've had is, you've really worked for it. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Mm-hmm. So what about, and we'll talk a little bit about the crowdfunding in a moment as well, but I wondered as well then, what about as you've grown as a business, so now you're working full time on the business, so how have those challenges changed now that you've become a more mature business?
Right. So I also want to add 2 more challenges that I had when I was starting, which were huge. Another one was finding the materials, like finding quality vegan leather that wasn't made from, PVC or toxic chemicals. And also manufacturing in Dallas, because all of the manufacturing has gone overseas. It was hard to find, artisans who could work on handbags here in Dallas. So over the years, we've overcome those challenges by training artisans in our studio to work on our bags. And
oh, wow.
So, because we have to train them to make them in a way, that we think, fits our brand, its quality. Because we just can't find any handbag artisans in Dallas anymore. And in terms of the materials, we've finally found a manufacturer who produces quality vegan leather that's PVC free and toxic chemical free. And, it's more eco-conscious materials.
Cool. No, fantastic. So those are kind of quite interesting challenges. And especially like you say, when you were a student. So when you were a student, were you an art student?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, cool. So you already had those skills. So you were able to translate that, to have other people help you do that. So you're not doing all of that yourself.
No, I was doing
full on.
I was making, the bags in my dorm room by myself. And and it's just grown, beyond me. So I couldn't handle doing it all myself.
Fantastic. So what about so that's great. So that and that's also that you're able to overcome those challenges. So how have they changed as you've grown as a business and become more well known and mature?
Well, we have more resources. I can say that, of course, we have more capital to work with, and we have more time now that I am working on Cykochik full time, dedicating, 100% to growing Cykochik, which makes it a lot better. That I can,
for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. At what point were you able to work full time on the business, and how did that come about? And how did you know you were ready to make that move?
Well, I mentioned in 2013 was our 10-year anniversary, and at that point, I decided that it was about time that I pursue my passion full time and see how far I could take it and see how much I can grow it. So I decided to do a Kickstarter campaign, which is a crowdfunding website, to raise $10,000 for our 10-year anniversary, so that we can produce our Artist Series 3 collection, and also for me to leave my corporate marketing career and focus 100% of my time on Cykochik.
Wow. That's a brave decision.
Yeah, it was a huge leap, and we successfully raised over $10,000 over 30 days with the help of our fans and our friends from around the world. They backed us.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. So did you quit your job after you'd got the crowdfunding money?
Yes, I did.
You did. You waited. Okay, I was going to say that's
yeah,
smart.
absolutely.
Awesome. But even so, $10,000. I mean, that's great. That's obviously enough to create your products. But it's you know what I mean. It's not like a massive capital injection. So it's still quite a risk that you took and ran with it. So how did that sort of come about? You got the $10,000. You made this amazing collection. And so how did that then transition into you being able to work full time in the business?
Yeah, the $10,000 just covered the collection itself. It didn't fully fund the business. I had to fund the business with the savings that I had working, all those years. So, I'm sorry, what was the initial question?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I was just going to say, so you didn't just rely solely on the crowdfunding.
No, absolutely
not. For the best. You were able to.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, we actually didn't get the full money, the full amount that we raised because we had to pay, there are fees that you have to pay Kickstarter as well. So you don't get the full amount that you raise, it's good to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, I guess while we're on the subject of crowdfunding, so what tips, because, some crowdfunding campaigns are a huge success, that reach the target, and others just literally fall flat. So I'm curious, what tips could you offer, or what do you think people need to take into account if they're going to take part in a crowdfunding campaign, and particularly something like Kickstarter, where you've literally got the 30 days and it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
You either make the amount and you get your money minus the fee, or you get nothing. So what tips can you offer us on crowdfunding?
Yeah, so different crowdfunding sites have different rules. So with Kickstarter, it is all or nothing, where you have to reach, your goal or you don't get any of it. So it makes it really tricky. So my advice would be to set a reasonable, attainable goal. You can always go over your goal, but if you don't meet that goal, then you don't get anything. So set a reasonable amount that you can achieve. And then also set a reasonable time frame that you can achieve that goal within.
Got it. What about with getting the reach out? So getting people to actually, to donate, or, because I know I did a crowdfunding webinar that I hosted with Demetrius Bagley from Vegucated, and one of the things he said, it was really important to get your collaborators on board so that you really get people sharing about the campaign. So do you think your success was predominantly because you already had that existing fan base from those 10 years? Or, so I'm just kind of curious about how you kind of really got the campaign out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we've had 10 years of experience, and we've had 10 years of, fan base already. So we have that reach. So it wasn't like we're a brand new company, with no customers. So we have customers already that we could reach to on our, email list. But we also had a very intensive 30-day marketing campaign, that we really pushed, and we reached out to our partners. We reached out to the 3 artists that we had already announced for the collection to help us promote the campaign. And, we received some press, and that really helped our campaign as well.
Fantastic. I think that's good for people to hear, because sometimes people think, crowdfunding, it's just for startups, it's just for people starting out on their business. But it can also be used successfully, as you've done, with an existing business, and possibly even more successfully, because like you say, you've got that track record and you've built up that trust. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that, Nikki. So let's talk about the work with the local artists, because I love what you do here. You work with local artists, and that's quite unique, I think, about your brand. So tell us a little bit about why you chose that direction.
Well, I'm an artist myself, so I love working and supporting other artists. And I started the Artist Series collection in 2008 when I was working and living in New York City, because I had, so many artist friends whom I wanted to work with. So I just asked them, hey, do you want to collaborate on this collection? And to my surprise, they said yes. So that's how it started.
That's fantastic. So how do you decide then? Because obviously you were in New York, you then came back to, and someone might say, New York, major artist community, but you chose to move back to Dallas. So let's talk about that first. So why did you move back to Dallas? And yeah, then I'll ask you about how you decide which artists to work with.
Okay. Let's see. So when I was working in New York, I was still producing and working on Cykochik, based in Dallas. So I was flying back and forth a lot. So, so that didn't really make sense. And so I just decided to move back to Dallas in 2009, so that I could be closer to my studio and to my family and also to my then, fiance.
Oh, fantastic. So how do you decide which artists to work with?
Well, first I work with artists, who I admire and, who I love their style and, it just aligns with Cykochik's sort of fun, vibrant, and compassionate brand. So it has to be a fit that way.
Got it. So, and do you work specifically only with people in your area, or do you ever do any collaborations with artists outside the area, or is it mainly people based in Dallas?
Oh, I work with artists from around the world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, our mission is to cultivate a community of artists, artisans, and art patrons from around the world. So, yes.
Fantastic. And can you talk to us a little bit, as much as you're comfortable sharing, of course, about how that collaboration works? So do you just sort of pay the artists a one-off fee for their design, or do they get like a percentage of products sold, or a bit of both?
It really varies. We either pay a commission for an exclusive design or license a specific design from the artist. So it varies.
Oh, okay, got it. So in that, if you were commissioning, for example, so is there some risk involved? Like for example, if you commission it, but you're not 100% sure that the bags will sell, or how do you kind of get around that?
It's hard. You can't. It's really hard to predict what will sell. But since I know the artist and I know their style so well, I know that my customers will love the style as well. So we've been successful so far in the designs. So yeah.
Great. It sounds like you really know your artist and you really know your customers.
Yeah,
and I think that's a good lesson.
And also, if we have the money to commission 2 designs, we will do that, and then we'll let our fans vote on which design they want produced.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's great. So you've got it sounds like what I'm hearing is you've got really kind of high touch points with your clients. You really involve them in the whole thing rather than just, hey, we've got a bag. Do you want to buy it? It sounds like you really get them involved at various stages of production.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because, this is a social enterprise and it's building that community. So I want our fans to be involved in the creative process as well.
Wonderful. No, I love that, because you kind of feel like you've got a bit of an ownership in some way, like people are kind of more invested in a brand.
Absolutely.
So I love that you do. That's fantastic. So do you approach the artists then, or are you open to artists and creatives pitching you? And if so, how do they go about that?
Both. I approach artists and artists have approached me, and we're always open to working with new artists. So absolutely, they can send me their work via our website's contact page. They can send their a link to their portfolio if they want.
Cool. And what advice would you have from someone if they were planning to contact you? Because I imagine you probably get contacted by a lot of artists. What should they take into account in order to get your attention?
Well, they should know our brand. They should completely understand our brand and our style so that, it aligns with the brand. Because I sometimes, see a lot of style that it does not fit with our compassionate brand.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, cool. Got it. So another cool factor about your brand, which I love, is you give people the opportunity, and this ties in with what we were just talking about, to create custom products such as handbags and pillows. So they can upload a photo of their choice to have featured on the item. Tell us a bit about that. That's quite an interesting service. Why did you introduce that?
Well, Cykochik has always been a custom-made handbag company from the very beginning when I was making those custom portrait totes. So this is, just a new product that we're now offering, is that we can print, any photo of like your dog, your artwork, any picture at all, digitally printed on our eco canvas material, which is made from recycled water bottles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and people are surprised, that when we tell them it's recycled water bottles.
That's very cool because, gosh, there's so many of those around just going into landfills. So awesome that you're taking them and making them really cool. That's great. So what would you say then? What's maybe one of the funniest or quirkiest custom requests you've had?
There's been many over the last 14 years. But I think maybe the quirkiest, recently we just made a custom tote for a Dallas vegan bakery with a giant hand-cut chocolate chip cookie applique on it. It's part of their logo. So it's a giant cookie on a tote bag, which is really cute.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, we talked a little bit about how you moved back to Dallas. You got your studio there and your bags are made locally. So that's a kind of an interesting one because, as you say, a lot of manufacturing goes overseas because it's cheaper. So why did you make the decision to stay and keep the manufacture in Dallas? And how do you manage to sort of, I guess, keep your prices at a point where it's kind of makes it feasible for you to be able to continue to manufacture in the US?
Yeah, it is hard, to decide to manufacture in Dallas. It's because Dallas is my hometown and I founded Cykochik here in Dallas. So it's very much a part of Cykochik's brand. So I want to continue to, support, artisans here in Dallas and support our local economy. And the reason we can do that and be competitive is because we sell directly to our customers at wholesale prices instead of marking it up for retailers. So that's how we can be competitive. And we also keep our overheads low so that, again, we can offer competitive prices because we're an e-commerce. We don't have a brick and mortar, store. And, the reason that I want to keep it in Dallas is because we're pretty centralized, in the U.S. So we can ship to the East Coast and the West Coast, pretty quickly. And it also saves, on our carbon footprint, just having everything manufactured locally, and not having it shipped from overseas.
Right. So. Got it. Now, that's interesting that you said that. So have you ever been, when you say you wanted to keep that like as an e-commerce business, and that makes sense. So have you ever been approached by, or have you ever considered working with distributors to get your products in stores, or you're really happy for your business to grow as an e-commerce business selling directly to the public?
We've always been e-commerce, and I think it'll be an e-commerce, for a while. We have, sold in retail stores and museum stores, but those were just sort of a one-time thing or pop-up events. But most of our bags are custom made, so it just works better as an e-commerce.
Got it. And I think that's good for people to hear, because I think sometimes when people are, whether it's food or fashion, there's this kind of almost like a stereotype that to be successful, to have a successful business, you've got to be picked up by distributors and, being in all these high-end stores and all the rest of it. But you don't, so I love that you've been able to be successful, working your business full-time and run it successfully by working directly with the public. So that's fantastic. Do you ship internationally, Nikki, or mainly within the States?
Absolutely. And that's another thing that, I love about e-commerce is that we ship worldwide. We ship a lot to Australia and New Zealand, which is really incredible.
Fantastic.
To be able to reach customers, all the way across the world.
Awesome. Fantastic. Now, you touched on a little bit earlier that even from the beginning, you started to contract out some of the work, like you mentioned, a bookkeeper and some artisans with sewing. So in terms of staff, like do you actually have any employees, or do you kind of work more on an outsourcing contractor basis?
I am the only employee. So I do contract out most of my work.
Fantastic. And how do you go about finding those contractors and, getting them on board with your brand?
In the beginning, I reached out to, like I said, finding the artisans because it was hard as a startup. But now, we're so fortunate to have a strong brand that often compassionate people find us instead.
Awesome.
Which is great. Yeah.
It is. And I think that's something else to point out as well is, that once you get to that point, and you stick at it and you grow your brand and people like you and they trust you and they love your brand, then that's the kind of thing that happens. You start getting the resumes sent to you rather than having to go out looking for people. So no, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about, and I put it in quote marks, competition. There's obviously now, more diverse range of vegan accessories brands, popping up here and there, both new ones and ones that have been in the game for longer as well. So tell me a little bit about how you continue to stand out, not only in the general fashion accessory space, but also in the ethical, cruelty-free space and maintaining a regular flow of customers.
Well, I think it's amazing that the vegan fashion market is growing so rapidly, and it really helps bring veganism into the mainstream market. So in a way, that helps us as well, because, high tide lifts all boats, right?
Yes.
So, I don't see them as competition, but as partners, on this mission to raise awareness for veganism. But, how we sort of compete, if you want to say, is that we have, the relationships with our customers that we've built over 14 years. So we really have the brand loyalty from our customers that a lot of, startups don't have. And a lot of our sales are from repeat customers over the years. And we also stay true to our 3 core values of creativity, craftsmanship, and community. And it's building that global community that I talked about that has really helped differentiate us and sustained us over the years.
Got it. I love definitely getting that sense of your brand, that you're not just creating customers who'll buy from you. You really are creating a community around your brand, which is fantastic. So what have been some of the marketing strategies that you've used over the years that have been successful in growing Cykochik? I'm getting the impression that email marketing is probably quite important now because you've got that core community of people who love your brand. But can you just talk a little bit about some of the marketing strategies you've used to grow Cykochik?
Sure. So I guess the bags themselves are sort of walking advertisements for Cykochik because they're so unique, and so they kind of tell the story of Cykochik, and so word of mouth has been really helpful for us from the very beginning. And so from word of mouth to social media has been sort of free marketing for us. And we've also received a lot of free press in the beginning. Press would approach me, to tell Cykochik's story. For the first 10 years, I didn't pay, for marketing at all.
Fantastic. How did that press cover, when you say so that the press approached you, was that mainly local media, Nikki, or was it international? Like, what kind of media were approaching you? Because that's quite interesting.
It was mostly local, absolutely. And so, like once you start getting press, you keep on getting more and more press.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Snowball.
Yes, absolutely, which really helped. And just because we have a very unique brand and unique products, they sort of sell themselves and market themselves. And recently, we started doing a lot of pop-up events and veg fests around the country to really meet with our customers and do marketing that way, face-to-face marketing.
Fantastic. For something like that can be great because people can see them and look at them and touch them.
Yes,
fantastic.
Absolutely. And the e-newsletter is absolutely our most, I don't know what's the word. I'm just our most successful marketing technique, I guess I would say. Yeah.
And that makes sense because I know it's sort of like, people get very caught up in social media and that can be fantastic, but it's always great if you can get people off those social media channels and into your own list because, if Facebook or anything decides to close your account or something, then suddenly you've lost access to those, thousands of people you may have built up. Whereas if you've got them in your email list, you've got that real kind of, direct point of contact. So it sounds like you've been able to use that very successfully, which is fantastic. What about the use of the word the V word, the word vegan? So there's another question I always love to ask everyone because we get so many different answers. So give us your take, Nikki, on, why you use or how you use the word vegan or not, or how prominently in your branding and your marketing.
Right. So in the beginning, when I started, Cykochik has always been vegan before it was a cool thing 14 years ago. But I didn't use the word vegan at all in my marketing because it was targeted towards just the general market. And we didn't start using the word vegan until 4 years ago in 2013 when I decided to focus on Cykochik full time and really grow it as a vegan brand. And the reason, I decided to use vegan is because I want to promote veganism and I kind of want to educate the market about what veganism is. So when you use that word, people will ask about it. And so that's an opportunity to talk about it.
For sure, and to associate it with something amazing as well, which I think is really nice because, sometimes with food or fashion, initially, like I say, I went vegan nearly 20 years ago. And, if you talked about vegan fashion, the stereotype is, it's going to be bland and, straw coloured or what have you. And you know what I mean? So I think when you can associate it with something, particularly if something like your brand is so colourful and vibrant, it's really breaking down those stereotypes, which is absolutely fantastic. So let's talk a little bit then about, for those people who are listening to this, and maybe I think a lot of people will be very inspired by you and your journey and how you've got to where you are today. What advice would you give to them? Say they're perhaps a student like you were, starting out in their dorm, who want to run their own business, particularly their own creative business like you do. What advice or tips could you offer them before, perhaps launching straight into running their own business or jumping from employed to self-employed?
Okay. Yeah, so it did take me 10 years to make the leap, to work on my business full time, but it doesn't have to take 10 years, to make that leap. I just wanted to grow it slow and steady and make sure that I was ready. So my advice would be, to make sure that you're financially secure before you take that leap to work on the business full time. Because you have to be able to survive without an income for a few months or maybe for even a few years. So that's really important. And secondly, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And I know that sounds cliche, but you definitely have to be passionate about your business if you're going to be working on it 24/7. And there's going to be, tough times that you're just going to be like, what am I doing? But you just got to stick with it. And also before you start, test the market just to see how it responds to your product or your service. But just start, don't wait until you have everything in order, or, don't wait until you think you're ready, because I don't think you'll ever be ready to, to make that leap. So you just got to start, with something. Just start doing it.
Fantastic. That's wonderful advice on all three counts there. Fantastic. So talk a little bit about, we're wrapping up towards the end now. Let's talk a little bit about the whole kind of mindset side of it, because you've already touched on the fact that, yes, you've got to have that passion. You are going to be working long hours, particularly in the beginning, on your business. So what would you say, what personal qualities do people either need to have or to cultivate to stay the course and run a successful ethical business?
I think you have to be able to think with your head and your heart, because I think as vegans, we tend to think more with our heart. But as a business owner, we have to be able to think with our head as well. So, as I mentioned, having passion for your business, but also having a clear purpose for a higher cause, whether it's saving the animals, people, or the environment, whatever your purpose may be. And also to have empathy for others, to be able to connect personally with your employees or your partners or your customers, and then to be strategic, to have a plan and to stick with it.
Got it. Great advice there. How important has it been for you, Nikki, to kind of be the face of your brand? Because I know sometimes with some, particularly creatives, and not all of them, but with some of them, they love the actual creating of the product, but they don't want to go out there and do the marketing. They don't want to be there in the media necessarily, or they're worried about it, they're nervous about it. So how important has it been for you to kind of, I guess, be the person behind the brand? And what skills, if any, have you had to develop to be able to do that?
Well, I think that's where my experience in marketing for 17 years really helped me build my Cykochik brand over the years. And so, yeah, I do have to be sort of the face of the brand and, do the marketing and do events and do all these public speaking events for the brand, which I really love because I'm really passionate about veganism, and I love speaking about, the purpose and the cause for Cykochik.
Yeah, and I think that's quite a nice way to reframe things, is to think of it as, because, a lot of people are afraid of public speaking or, going on TV or what have you. But it's a way, as you say, to really communicate about veganism and your passion through your brand. So I think that's quite a nice way to reframe it, rather than kind of getting nervous thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to go and speak about this. But, because you love it so much, it's a way to spread the information about the cause. So I think that's great that you've done that. Do you have any specific things that you do to, I guess, kind of either chill out or to relax or to just balance yourself out to make sure that you have that strong mental well-being as an entrepreneur?
Well, to be productive, it's hard being your own boss, so you have to manage your time wisely. So I time block my day for important work, for emails, for meetings, and even for workouts. That's when, I meditate or I do yoga or I ride my bike. So yeah.
Wow. And are they kind of set into, are they sort of pretty much, right, this is it, this is the time I've got blocked out? So when you're doing the gym or you're doing the meditation, do you turn off your phone so you literally can't be disturbed? Or is it kind of, does it have to be kind of a bit flexible so that if an urgent call comes through, you take it? How do you kind of work that with the blocks, time blocks?
Yes, I actually put it in my calendar. So everyone can see, my availability throughout the day. So, for my time block, it says I'm busy, for that time. But, I can be flexible because, owning your own business, anything could happen. So it's not set in stone, but, I try to stick to it.
Cool. Now that's good to know. That can be useful because it can be easy as a business owner to kind of just let everyone else control you.
Yeah, exactly.
And let time control you.
Exactly.
So I like that you've got those boundaries in place. That's a really smart move. What have been the key lessons you think you've learned through running your business?
Wow, so many lessons. I think the biggest lessons is that you don't need permission from anyone but yourself to follow your dream. That's the biggest lesson I've learned. And, as an art student, I really had no business being in business or in fashion. But, 14 years later, I'm running an international fashion brand. So you really don't need permission from anyone else.
I love that. I'll make a nice quote. I think we can make a quote about that and post it on as a meme on Facebook. I love that.
We'll put it on a bag or a shirt.
Yeah.
And also I found that, as a business, we can save more animals, more people, and we can save the planet, as a business than as an individual, I think, because as an organization, you can have more impact on those things.
Yeah, for sure. And what I love about your story is, like you mentioned, you've gone from being an art student and then you went and worked like you said, you had a corporate career in marketing, and then you found your way back to the art and into fashion. So I think that's really great for people to hear that, because I think sometimes people think, oh, well, if I'm an art student, am I really going to have a career that's, going to make me money and sustain me as well as, following my passion? And I think you're a really great example of how it's possible to do that. And that even if you do go off and have a different kind of career, like you did in the marketing, it doesn't mean that you can't, do what you've done as well, like starting the brand up while you were doing that and eventually being able to move full time into it. So I think you've got such an inspiring story, Nikki. I love it. And I really appreciate you sharing your insights and your expertise. It's been fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me.
Well, thank you. I hope it was helpful.
Very much indeed. So thank you. So that was Nikki Duong Koenig from Cykochik Custom Handbags. You can find out more at custom-handbags.com. And that link is on the show notes page at veganbusinessmedia.com/podcasts and going to episode 67. Now for our Vegan Business News Roundup. In 2015, Aquafaba hit the headlines as professional chefs, home cooks and food bloggers discovered the liquid brine in cans of chickpeas is the ideal substitute for egg whites to create frothy vegan meringues. Now plant-based chef Diane Fawley, who also owns plant-based wholesale bakery Flourish Baking Company in Scarsdale, New York, has opened the first online store dedicated to selling vegan meringues, reports Veg News. After months of trial and error, Fawley managed to perfect the crunchy substance and now sells the meringues in a range of flavours, including maple, brown sugar, blueberry lavender, raspberry rose and drip drops, which are meringues drizzled with chocolate. So again, we're continuing to see more and more products becoming veganised. And you can even use Aquafaba in savoury dishes. You may recall, if you're a regular listener to this podcast, that condiment brand Sir Kensington launched the first commercial mayonnaise made from Aquafaba, Fabonnaise, last year. It's great to see these new and innovative developments. Vegan female entrepreneurs are the focus of a new pop-up market in Chicago. Vegan Woman Made takes place this Sunday, 23rd of April, and that's 2017 if you're listening in the future. With a vision to create access for women entrepreneurs to sustain business growth and create possibilities for economic empowerment, the first of its kind event will feature plant-based cuisine, cruelty-free goods and beauty and wellness services created exclusively by women-identified entrepreneurs and makers. Around 40 makers will converge on the space at 2643 West Chicago Avenue to sell their wares. Now, you may remember I've reported on a similar regular market in London's Hackney Downs in the UK, run by blogger Fat Gay Vegan, which gives priority to stallholders who are from traditionally oppressed minorities, including women. Also, Maker Sydney in the inner west suburb of Petersham, Australia, is run by a couple of women who provide space and help for other makers, many of whom are women. It's lovely to see this kind of collaboration and encouraging entrepreneurship among women. Talking of collaboration, BHEX, a robotics company that originated in NASA, recently teamed up with Cauliflower, a cauliflower-based pizza crust and plant-based dessert doughs maker, to create 3D printed flower-shaped cauliflower-based personalised pizzas. Yes, you heard that right. 3D printed pizza. It sounds so bizarre to even say it. Now, these were made in under a minute in front of a crowd of 300 at Groundwork, a Columbus-based firm in Ohio that provides IT services for non-profit organisations. BHEX CEO Anjan Contractor praised Cauliflower's forward-thinking way of operating, saying their organic, plant-based approach to crust appeals to vegan and health-conscious markets that appear ready to grow tenfold over the next year. Jordan French, BHEX founding CMO, added that no longer do retail-facing businesses need to sacrifice on quality and personalisation due to a spike in demand for fresh food. BHEX's technology permits a far greater variety of foods to be available on demand and to a certain calorie count. Wow. I often joke about how cool it would be to have one of those food materialisers on Star Trek Next Generation, where you say what kind of food you want and it just appears. Now, I didn't think I'd see that in my lifetime, but this kind of biotech development makes it a real possibility. It's kind of cool and a little bit freaky at the same time. Finally, Bagel Factory has become the first UK chain to offer bagels with vegan cream cheese. The move happened after discussions with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, which has acknowledged the company's efforts with a PROGGY award, PROGGY means progress, which recognises animal-friendly achievements in commerce and culture, reports Plant-Based News. Bagel Factory created a veggie-filled bagel with vegan cream cheese, avocado, tomatoes and black olives, which was available for £4.29 to launch the new vegan cream cheese at all its stores from the 19th of April. And a bagel with just vegan cream cheese is £2.49. I'm so happy to hear this. Back in the early 90s, I lived for a short while in Dalston in East London before it became trendy. Now, this was just before I went vegan, and there was a 24-hour bagel place nearby that I used to love to go to, particularly late at night for a snack, and I loved having my bagel slathered in cream cheese. So it's great that there's now non-dairy options available. So as well as frequenting the vegan pizzerias that I reported on recently, I'll be getting myself a vegan bagel or two with cream cheese during my trip to London in October for the VegFest UK trade event. It's great to see chains like this really getting on board with the plant-based food trend. So that's it for this episode of Vegan Business Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a review and rating on iTunes or any other platform you're listening on. Finally, I encourage you to head over to veganbusinessmedia.com, where you can find more resources, including details of my media and PR consultations, copywriting, editing and proofreading services to help you grow your vegan business. I'm Katrina Fox, author of Vegan Ventures, Start and Grow an Ethical Business, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of Vegan Business Talk. Bye for now.